It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a modern podcast where we talk about everything that's great, like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate. Oh yeah.
Hello everyone and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris.
And my name is Mike.
And this week we have a release schedule update for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Mike. Quite a few updates. Not huge, but enough to put in here.
Yeah, everyone get out your latest versions of Photoshop and start photoshopping up new timelines because I don't think Marvel's cranking them out anymore. You kind of have to make your own.
They're not... once it's in print, it means it'll change, right? That's why they don't do that. So we'll keep you updated. We'll be updating our page later as well. Daredevil will be getting D23 FaceTime this week. I was going to say get eyes on Daredevil, but I thought that was very inappropriate. He's blind, but D23 is coming up, so we'll have some of that news. Spider-Man Noir adds Sandman somehow. We've got a whole list of characters in Spider-Man Noir from the release this week, and we're gonna go through them and kind of just poke them a little bit. Nothing huge, but figure we get them in front of you guys and get your what everyone else's feedback is on Spider-Man Noir, because I feel like we're in a very isolated sandbox for this show. So I'm excited to hear what other people who are less living in this would think about the news if they read it or came across it one day. But that is our main topics for the show this week, Mike. It's been a long first week in August for me. How's your years been?
Well, I mean, it's like triple. We're in like the triple threat con summer right now. Yeah. Comic-Con was last week. Next week it's a D23 Expo where we should be getting some more news and updates there. But you were at a con yourself this very weekend, and I've been waiting for you to give me an update on the show.
Yes. So for those who are subscribed would have gotten already. I went to GenCon this week, and I've never understood why they've called this thing GenCon. It is a tabletop board game RPG convention. Anything, if you're into that kind of stuff, this is the mecca of all that, right? The San Diego Comic-Con of board games and tabletop games. And I found out finally this weekend why they call it Gen Con. I was like, it's a very, no pun intended, generic name, if you will, for something that doesn't tell me, hey, this is what it's about. But apparently the original convention used to be in Geneva, Wisconsin. So it was the Geneva Convention. And boy, let me tell you how much fun I had with that for a little bit. The proverbial crowd there was tired of me by the end of it, but I had a good time. But I gotta go to Gen Con. I'm gonna give a shout out real quick to listener and sometimes guest host on the show, Patrick, for inviting me multiple times over multiple years, and me finally saying I'll go if we can cover it for Superhero Slate. So he went there. Also shout out to people who let me stay with them, Adam and Luke and Patrick all together. It was a good time. I ran into probably no less than 15 people I knew at this convention, Mike. Like literally. Oh wow! It's in Indianapolis, Indiana. So obviously, I've got pretty close roots to it. So that was a plus. So I got to see a lot of people. But well, I would say the biggest thing, Mike, and you've been to Comic-Cons before, several different kinds. This is literally a Comic-Con for tabletop games, like one for one, right? There's vendors, there's booths, there's an artist alley. You're there to get cool merch, exclusives, debuts, drops, all this fun stuff. I had no idea going to this, but the other part of this is when you buy a game, guess what you want to do with a game, Mike? You want to play it. And guess what that requires? Tabletop space. Tables? Yes. So there is a huge halls in the Indianapolis Convention Center open, just tables as far as the eye can see. The Marriott also has hundreds of just tables and chairs as far as the eye can see at this place. Not in the convention center proper, but like I could not literally, I couldn't fathom the number of seats and table like places to play games at this convention. It was absolutely awesome to see in person. I will say, my experience for the first time, I didn't go in with really a game plan, and I think that's okay to take it in the first year. But I will say if I go back next year, I plan on doing it. I think I have a better game plan. We did, for those who subscribed, we had to interview two people for the show. One is Stone Blade, I think Entertainment. I think the one that's live is Stone Blade. They do a game called Ascension, and it's an older. I wouldn't say older, but several years ago they've been out of reprint. They're reprinting it with Ascension Legacy. I should have wrote this down. But we were able to talk to the CEO of that company, and he's very excited about it. So I recommend listening to that interview. Patrick is 100% our guy in the chair, literally playing games. We also have a shout to Marshall, listener to the show. He was there, met him up. He would love to be our guy in the chair as well. And I definitely think I'll take him up on that next year. So we got to interview them. And we also get to interview a company called Andrew Esposito of the Op Games. They do, the big game they had this year was called Gnome Hollow. That's where you build mushroom rings with gnomes. It's a very, very popular game. They also have delved in helping publish, or at least owning some of the Dice Throne stuff, which has Marvel Dice Throne. If you've ever seen
this. I think I've heard of this company before. I feel like I've seen their logo on licensed tabletop games before, like with pre-established IP and stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. And they have X-Men Dice Throne coming out later. But they had Gnome Hollow there. That's their big game. They have another one going to launch next year. So that interview will probably go up tomorrow or Tuesday with him. It's very cool to learn about that stuff and some of the future. They have a Muppet based game coming out later.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah. So it was very, very cool to hear about that. So we're going to put that up. But I mean, if you're into this kind of board game tabletop games, lightly, this might be overwhelming, and I totally understand. If you're into it heavy, you probably are heard about it, so this is pointless. But one of the cool games, Mike, I want to tell you, and then before we kind of jump on this, because I want to make sure the GenCon interviews, kind of tell our story, is I have the name in my text messages with my wife, but it's a game system that is NFC based or RFID based. So you have the base of it, which is the electronics, and then you put your maps on top, and the tablet tells you where you are and the creatures are that you're fighting in this game. And so you move around.
That sounds fun.
And it does the math for you. You don't have to keep track of what it is. When it's your turn, you use a phone or another tablet as the gamepad, right, to play. It shows you your cards, your abilities. It'll tell you what you can and can't do, so you don't have to keep checking a rule book the whole time. Which makes the gameplay kind of speedy and fast. It was fun. We had a really good time playing that. All four of us had a demo there, thanks to Luke. But it was very interesting because in a convention center, it runs on Wi-Fi, and the Wi-Fi signal in a convention hall is the worst thing about that. So it kept disconnecting every 5 minutes, and it was really, really, really funny. I am going through my messages to still check this stuff out. It was a really fun game, and they actually so the main one we played, you fight Zodiacs, like the big monsters or Zodiac, I guess, representations. They have a Vampire the Masquerade version coming. There's a Cthulhu version coming, which is really cool. So there's some other games we played, but I want to make sure that kind of gets the interview. I plan on, Mike, and this be for you as well because you're not part of it, getting with Patrick and Luke and doing a special episode where we recap their experiences as GenCon professionals and kind of things that they would tell people to miss it, because
sounds great.
I don't know anything about it. I'm not a good source on my first year to say. I just know I saw a lot of people. It was a really good time. Indianapolis was absolutely packed to the gills downtown there, and if you're into gaming, that is where you want to be. The only thing you'd be proud of me, I only bought one thing all weekend, Mike, and it's you're not gonna be surprised because it's the Marvel multiverse role-playing game. The X-Men book was released because we are in the X-Men era of merchandise over at Marvel right now. So I bought their book and gotta do bring that home so I can take a look at it and start playing that. But any other questions you had kind of off your cuff there, kind of?
No, I mean, it sounds like the vibes were immaculate there. I would love to just experience it myself at some point in time because it sounds a very specific convention, but also seems like it was very popular. So, I mean, board games have only gotten more popular year over year. It's just been an explosion, especially kind of like in that indie space. So I got to imagine a convention like Gen Con has only benefited from all that renewed enthusiasm. So that's cool. I'm glad you had a good time.
Yeah, and then this is, I think, the first year they've actually sold out of tickets since like maybe 2017, I think. So it was really cool to see the sold out sign everywhere, right? Like, I mean, sad if you didn't get your tickets, but like it was really cool to see like that many people, that much floor. I got my steps in, felt pretty good. Boy, I'm still scrolling through my messages trying to figure out the name of this place. Oh, The Bad Karmas and the Curse of the Zodiac. So, yeah, I'll probably put a link in here for that later. We can talk about it. But, yeah, absolutely love Gen Con. Great. I look forward to putting those episodes up and talking about it more in detail with the professionals. But I want to jump into our news. My first bit of news we have today, no surprise here. It's just our update on Deadpool and Wolverine, our box office updates. It's at $824 million as of today. Ooh. And that now makes it the biggest R-rated movie in U.S. history, passing The Passion of the Christ. And for it to become number one, it will have to pass the Joker's $1.06 billion to become the highest ever. So,
I mean, it seems like it's going to be able to do it based on the legs it has right now. Mm-hmm. I was watching some Olympic coverage on Peacock over the weekend, which means I was sitting through commercials because I can't avoid those when you're watching live television. And I was seeing the trailer for Moana 2, which is slotted for November. And it made me think back to those like Nielsen ratings from just like last year, where they said like the number one streamed movie was like the first Moana movie, which came out years ago. So I'm looking at Moana 2 coming out, Deadpool here about to cross $1 billion, Inside Out 2 already crossing $1 billion. I'm like, I think Disney is going to get $3 billion this calendar year, which that is not something that has happened in a long, long time. So this is good for them.
Oh yeah. I love it when large corporations win, Mike. That's really what I'm into these days. But I was looking up here, kind of what is the number one movie this year? Do you Inside Out 2? That's what it is. So yep, number one movie this year. But anyway, doing great. They do say it should pass. It should end around 1.2 billion is what the analysts are saying. But it's funny. I don't have it here, but I've seen like people sharing the cams stuff. There are, I wouldn't say spoilers, but things you want to experience in person in the theater. But
Chris, I was scrolling on TikTok mere hours ago, and there was a live feed. Now, it's a vertically oriented platform, so this is probably the single worst way to watch Deadpool 3, but it was like a square in the middle of the TikTok feed, and the square was split in half, so the top of the square was somebody's random like Fortnite like lobby screen, and then underneath it was just the like a cam rip or something of Deadpool 3 just playing in the bottom. I was like, who experiences Deadpool like this, and why is this illegal and on this platform? It was wild. It was so funny.
Yeah, I mean the split's probably, they're probably getting by the auto capture by that, but I will say like even Sean Levy was sharing cut clips from the show. There's a about midway through the movie, there's we've talked about it, non-spoilers, the minivan scene, right? A very poignant conversation between Logan and Deadpool in a minivan, and he shared that scene on there talking about, obviously the crash of getting Hugh Jackman to deliver this line was huge, very heavy kind of lines, but getting him to deliver it how he did it was great. And I'm like, he's even sharing these cams because these cams are like almost pitch perfect right now of this movie. But doesn't matter if this came to line because people are going to see this movie in droves still. So I'm excited that even with piracy, people are still going to watch it in theaters. And we recommend that if you haven't listened to our review from last week, or even if you did listen to our review, it doesn't matter. Go watch it. I had a good time. And Chainsaw, I was talking to someone, actually, I was playing games earlier. He said he watched it this weekend. He said the jokes were coming on so fast. He's like, I'm gonna have to rewatch this a couple times to get all the jokes and references in that movie. And I agree. Mm-hmm. Let's shift gears a little bit. Rumor theory for the Marvels. I've seen this kind of pop up a little bit in the past week. Really, is that at the end of the Marvels, spoiler alert for a movie from last November, that Monica Rambeau was sent to another universe, and she wakes up and sees Kelsey Grammer's Beast, and then a different version of her mother who's in the binary form. But they are saying that is actually the Fox/Deadpool's universe at the end of the movie, like 10,005 or whatever it's called at the end. And that's where she is, and they're obviously going to spend some time in maybe Doomsday or Secret Wars reuniting, figuring this out. But that kind of sets up the incursions to feature possibly the last two remaining universes before Battleworld being, Disney's MCU versus some remnants of a similar Fox universe where mutants exist, and possibly teeing up a small, not properly called, but a small Avengers versus X-Men scene, or maybe chapter even in the Battleworld movies, or I guess Secret Wars movies coming up down the road. Do you think that would be?
Yeah, I feel like I have more to add to this once we get to our kind of release schedule later in the show. But I would say anyone can say what they want to say of like what universe anyone ends up in, especially in a post-credit scene. But kind of like the beneficial part of having a multiverse where things can almost be identical, or a universe can be whatever you need it to be. They don't really have to stick to what it is until they start like kind of writing the script. Like Monica Rambeau could have ended up in any numbers of universes, because there's probably a Deadpool there already. We've already seen that there's lots of variations of Deadpool. So
and really, Fox was very, very loose with their X-Men canon anyway and timelines. So it doesn't literally, you can be like, yeah, whatever X-Men we need is what happened over here, because we have no. If you don't think about it, it's fine. When you try to think about it, you're gonna have a fucking migraine for the X-Men universe. So I think it'd be interesting for them to do that. Like, we're not going to get the new X-Men proper until probably the soft reboot post Secret Wars, but it would be cool to see, Kelsey Grammer Beast proper fighting, Falcon or somebody down the road. I don't know, in this small movie known as Avengers. Moving on, Fantastic Four: The First Steps. I have revisited some of this leaked footage over the week, Mike, since San Diego Comic-Con of this, and I absolutely love watching how this test footage is. So if anyone can find it and still out there, I'd take a look at it. But they are building the sets. They're obviously filming this week. This past week was the first week they were filming over there, but they're still building sets while they film. And it looks like they are building a proper Baxter Building with a Fantastic Four landing pad, maybe, or like a helipad, or their Fantastic car pad, because we're looking at a top-down drone shot of a big blue 4 on like a triangle landing pad being built here. And then the next photo we have in there is a bigger town being built, and it looks to be again a retro futuristic, maybe obviously Manhattan, like Yancy Street kind of scenario. There's that bit. What's that big? I don't know what it's called. The triangle portion in New York where Spider-Man's always fighting bosses.
Oh, I think it's the Flatiron Building.
It looks like that, right? Like it looks like this is that part of that. And then down underneath, we have a watermark here for Unboxed PhD. Underneath the @ symbol, there's like a round curve thing with like the, I guess I don't know how to call those, like divots taken out of it a little bit.
Yeah, it's like a very mid-century future retro awning just on the outside of the building.
I feel like you see that in Tomorrowland at Disney. Like that's like the awnings you see when you kind of go through there. So,
this is just. Even though these are just like aerial and telephoto stuff, this is just a good sign that stuff is being built.
Yeah.
Right. They obviously have access to volumes. I'm sure there are portions of these Marvel movies moving forward that will utilize the volume, but I just love that they're outside and they're building stuff. It makes me happy.
Well, I think they still would. I don't think movies would use the volume these days as much, but like one of the things we're gonna have to contend with in this movie is a fully CGI thing, right? Like we have a rock monster who's gonna be CGI. So nothing looks worse than a moving CGI thing on top of a static CGI thing sometimes. So I can't believe. And I don't know if you see any of these out where you live, Mike, near production, but like how many cranes and like dolly like lifts are in these photos right here, like going on all at the same time. Like in the LA area, do you see a lot of like storage or transports of these things between areas, you think?
I mean, I don't really see anything quite at this scale. They're really, it seems like they're moving fast to put this stuff together, which is great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But yeah, check out those photos in there real quick for that. Moving on, I got 2 rumors here, and I kind of want to run them by you because the first one's interesting, and the second one is a little more. So the first rumor I have, which I believe to be the most believable of the two, is that Fantastic Four First Steps will show us effectively how an MCU universe quote unquote ends before the sequels. Like, you know, we've heard of universes dying and ending, but we've never seen it on the universe side, right? We've only just seen the you know, the TVA side, I guess, proper. And Doctor Strange kind of had one in Incursion, but they say like the end of this movie will lead into obviously Doomsday, so the universe will be ending so they can come into the MCU proper, you know, in their next movie down the road. Is there anything that you want to see out of that?
I mean, that seems like a really great mechanic for showing us as the audience the ramifications of a universe dying, right? You know, in Loki season 2, you know, whether you're looking at these alternate timelines as universes or multiverses or whatever we're supposed to do, it still seems like we're abstracted from them, right? They're just lines on a monitor, and whenever they disappear or get pruned, the camera kind of just whips around to like a TVA agent who's just like horrified, like, oh no, we lost another universe, right? But like, we don't really get time to like meet the people there and care for them. But this seems to be like you know, a very expensive movie that's building lots of physical sets. We're going to be in this with these characters for probably 2+ hours, getting familiar with them and the people that live around them, and then having a universe like kind of collapse on them at the end. That sounds like pretty traumatic and freaking crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I can only imagine what the post-credit scene of that movie is going to be like. So this could be a good way to set the table stakes for everything going forward.
Yeah, and I know Loki did like the spaghettification kind of thing, but I don't think that's how a universe quote unquote dies, right? I think that's, you know, works for the TVA being kind of unwinding, but not, I guess, ending at the end of the day. So I look forward to seeing this, and obviously it's a very science-based movie. It'll be great. We got Galactus in that. The other part of this is that that we're going to see the team's origins briefly, but then like we're going to catch up with the Fantastic Four, and they're like not together as the Fantastic Four, so they're going to have to reunite to fight Galactus. It's not that they're fighting or against each other; they're just like doing their own things. And I got to thinking about this and watching that test footage, and I'm like, oh, the Thing is in a dating show, and you know, it seems like, you know, Reed and Sue are trying to raise a family, having dinner at 8 on Sundays, trying to get together. Like, this looks to be a very true rumor, which would be an interesting spin, because all the movies about the Fantastic Four are them getting together for the first time in their origins, and this would be more like, no, we have our powers, we're already well known, we're dealing with celebrity and fame and the way to that, and then trying to come together and again and beat something bigger than us is a great story, right? Sounds like a good time for that.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of this, Galactus is a multiversal being like America Chavez was in Doctor Strange's Multiverse of Madness, where there's only one of him in the entire multiverse, and he's eating off planets through the multiverse, and that's why he's such a big threat for that. So I think that's interesting to make him bigger than one universe.
Yeah, and also that kind of adds more motivation for the Fantastic Four of if they end up within our mainline MCU universe and, you know, they kind of bring over Galactus with them, you know, they're going to have information that, you know, our heroes on Earth are going to want to know about.
There was a really good story, I think it was maybe in the Ultimates or something called Ultimate Hunger, where the Ultimate Galactus, which I don't know if you remember, was like a bunch of like a
it was like a cloud.
It was not
like
a cloud, but it was robots, right? It's like essentially if nanobots were the size of like planets, kind of thing, taken together, eating other planets. But that came into the mainline Marvel universe and merged with that universe, like powering him up and giving him like more hunger than he had before. So not saying that he would do that, but if you bring something from one universe into another and it mixes, you don't know what you're going to get out of that, and that would be an interesting dynamic down the road to keep Galactus as a multiversal, or not multiversal, but a cosmic threat. Possibly bring back the Celestials, someone who could actually compete against the huge Celestials would be something like that. So very, very, very interesting on Fantastic Four front. But we'll keep you guys posted if anything news coming along in those. I'm going to go ahead, Mike, and just crack open a nice root beer for the rest of this show because my mouth is dry. One of the worst parts about conventions is it throws off your eating and drinking schedule very, very much, right? Because you're up late, you're not drinking enough water no matter what you do. So I'm gonna sip-a-roni here. Moving on. Thank you. I knew that. I'm a Barks root beer fan. For anyone who wants to come at me, I love Barks root beer. I just grew up with it, and that's my favorite. So, big fan of the drinks. Moving on. Avengers Kang Dynasty. It was weird to type this because this movie technically doesn't exist. But as we have recently had Doomsday take its place and more information that come out, more rumors have come out, or I guess scoops, if you will, about what that movie was going to be. And it literally matches rumors we've been talking about for what feels like a year now, Mike. Previous, even before the Jonathan Majors, issues. But that it was going to focus on anchor beings, which we now know what anchor beings are, which included, the 3 Spider-Man actors being the anchor beings for their universes. Nicolas Cage's Ghost Rider was his anchor being. Logan being an anchor being recruited by the TVA to fight the Council of Kangs, if you will. And they would end up failing at the end of that movie, and Battleworld would be created by the one Kang we saw in Quantumania, who is now just effectively dead. But as people know, the movie has since been rewritten and new directors hired, but I could see some of this plot being reused a little bit for Doomsday. Instead of Kang doing this, it's Victor Von Doom, or a multiverse of Doom, getting all the universes saved instead.
Yeah, the rumors are interesting because if we take it at face value, right, it leans so heavily on Sony IP, right, of 3 Spider-Man. So you're rounding out half of the, quote, Avengers in this movie on, a universe that you have to have, shared custody with, which seems kind of you pulled it off in, No Way Home. And I suppose, they could have those contracts, extended for another movie.
And I want you to...
But that seems like you're rolling the dice a little bit.
Put an asterisk on that because I have actually bullet point for that later. It actually comes up on a release schedule part, so I'm actually going to drop some information on you there. But I love where your head's at on that regard.
Yeah, interesting, and also the idea sounds fun, right? Would I go to a movie theater and watch this? Yes, but it's called Avengers Kang Dynasty, and I'm like, where are all the Avengers at? Obviously I know it's going to be a new team, but that's a very odd team together to call the Avengers, right?
Right, exactly, and. It really feels like they were relying on like a send off, like a proper send off in that movie, right? King Dynasty, hey, we're gonna get all your people together one more time, and we're gonna send them off. They're gonna lose at the end of this movie. We may see them briefly in the next movie, but we're gonna be essentially saying farewell to their possibilities of returning, kind of after this. But the popularity of Deadpool and Wolverine, they've not rewritten Avengers since Deadpool and Wolverine came out a week ago. I just want to quell any discourse about it. They're going to look at that movie and rewrite it. They can't. They don't have enough time to do that. But they have been planning, to me, the anchor beings for longer than we have seen them on screen, since we've only been properly introduced to them for a week now. So this does tie into what I feel Deadpool and Wolverine was doing and setting up for people to get used to. But I'm going to come back to that Spider-Man thing here in a bit. But let's move on to now King Dynasty has been taken over by Avengers Doomsday, and we got that announcement last week with Robert Downey Jr. coming to play this. But the movie will have Victor Von Doom trying to stop incursions, universes colliding, and decaying by unifying them into one place, a new solitary, and I'm going to use this phrase lightly, sacred timeline, because the sacred timeline is where what Loki controlled, but like this is going to be more like, hey, everything just happens here. There's no timeline. It is now just my world, and I'm the god here, if you will.
Yeah, it's interesting. The rumors are flying fast and furious about what's kind of coming up within the MCU, because you're presenting me a list here, which is great. And normally I avoid going out and reading rumors, but for some reason the algorithms have just been putting them in my face over the last couple of days. You know, and I saw some that said, oh, Kang is supposed to be coming over into, Doctor Doom is supposed to be coming over into our mainline universe through like some sort of portal and like Karmatage. Who knows how that's going to like facilitate. But I like Doom's characteristic that he kind of shares maybe with like a Bruce Wayne or a Batman in a way of like, kind of one of his big powers is like he's like a planner, right? Yeah. You know, he's a leader, like an organizer, and also, you know, usually you throw some sort of like technology or magic on top of him, you know, to give him that extra edge. Yeah. But I do think a big overarching plan like this works well for a Doom character, so I could see this fitting within his archetype. Because
Doom is like, again, he's always been the opposite of Reed Richards, right? They've always been their villains to each other, talking about Fantastic Four. Reed did it for everybody, and Doom does things exactly the same things, same, but for himself, and that's the interesting part. Like, he wants to be, you know, the leader of the library and looked upon and ruled, but like Reed does it because he's a good person, and that's always been like the yin and yang of that. And this seems very, I'm doing it because I can, and I want to be worshipped.
Yeah, and the question I have now, and I can't believe it didn't pop up into my head until just this very second, is this Doom, this Robert Downey Jr. Doom, going to be the Doom that exists within the Fantastic Four First Steps universe, right? I mean, it makes sense if it is, you know, if you're going to reintroduce the Fantastic Four, you know, it seems like a good way to like at least, you know, hint at the existence of Dr. Doom in there. And maybe also that's why they are so open to showing Robert Downey Jr. on stage as Doom, you know, basically pulling the reveal away from the movie and letting everyone know ahead of time is maybe we're going to see his face like, you know, like on a newspaper or a news program or something within the Fantastic Four movie. So it'll kind of be established already. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and I would love to... You know, everyone's doing the class. I love the classic Doom look, and they should do the classic Doom look, absolutely. But would be cool to see like a retro futuristic Doom that fits in that Fantastic Four universe a little bit. Like, how do they make him look cool in the First Steps world a little bit? But yeah, I think they're necessary. I don't know if he's going to be in there, and it would be interesting, right, to see what that kind of looks like. And there's so much secrecy behind that movie as well. I will say the other interesting part about all these rumors you're seeing, you know, the age of guesses and scoops and rumors have all started to blend together a little bit. And I do like to go to, I don't use Reddit very often, but I'll go to Reddit and to the Marvel leaks and spoilers one, and they have a rating system for their scoopers and tell you how likely are they to be right when they announce a rumor or something. And some of the more recent ones have been demoted heavily due to how wrong they got. You know, they were just calling things out about Deadpool and Wolverine this year, and they were kind of demoted a little bit. So it's interesting to see some of those rumors. Like, hey, how right normally are they? And some people are starting to be the less. And that kind of goes back to last week when we talked about Deadpool and Wolverine. They're planting fake information out there to throw off the scoopers, right? So you know, you may be seeing stuff that will never come true, but they're just putting it out there to be that way. And the last bit about Avengers Doomsday is filming for the upcoming movies, both of them, Doomsday and Secret Wars. I assume they're going to be doing them not at the same time, but back to back pretty quickly. Will be in the UK studio as opposed to Atlanta, where they shot the last Avengers movies as well. I'm not going to bring it up, but have you seen like the discourse around what the Russos and Robert Downey Jr. being paid for these movies, Mike? The dollar signs being thrown around.
I think I saw some pretty large dollar signs, and I mean that must mean they're bullish on these Avengers movies if they can drop that much cash.
Yeah. Are they going to just be sure bets because people will go for Robert Downey Jr. not knowing he's not Iron Man, right? Kind of thing. Like a regular people would, but like I think it's like the Russo brothers are getting like 80 million, but so it's like, but they have to split it amongst themselves, and that's for both movies. So it's 20 million. Not that they need $20 million, but obviously like yeah, everyone was like, they're getting paid 80 million. It's not per movie, not per brother. That's total kind of thing. So just if anyone sees that, it's not at once. Moving on to Avengers Secret Wars, obviously the sequel / follow-up to that will be that the rumor is that Marvel Studios still wants Tom Cruise to come back as Iron Man in this movie as a variant. We heavily implied, we were even fooled during the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness trailers that he was in there as the evil Iron Man, but he couldn't be in there because of scheduling conflicts, so he was almost in there. So they really want to bring him back. I think we're overdue for Tom Cruise leaning into a caricature since Tropic Thunder, which was also with Robert Downey Jr., by the way. So I think we're due for him to kind of parody himself or play a not Mission Impossible character for a little bit.
Yeah. Well, it depends if he survives this skydiving jump he's supposed to do onto the Hollywood sign after the Olympics. It'd be a fun cameo.
Is he really doing that? Is that?
I think so. I mean, I did the bad thing where I never read past the headline of what I saw in my feed. But yeah, he's supposed to be doing some sort of stunt at the end of the Olympics.
The Olympics are wild because if I told you, Snoop Dogg was swimming with Michael Phelps at Paris for the Olympics, you'd be like, you're lying to me, Chris. Like, that's not a real thing. He doesn't do it. But like, Snoop Dogg is now everyone's favorite person in the world for America. So go Olympics, go teams. Okay, so this is where we're gonna get into some bullets here. So get out your pocket calendar, start making some release date changes here. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has a new release schedule, and I've highlighted things here in green that didn't change, Mike. So the things you see in green were already on the calendar. Everything else has been updated. I don't know if this green will make it to your podcatcher of choice or the website, so I will bold everything that is changed. That way people can see it. First and foremost, Captain America Brave New World, February 14th, did not change. Thunderbolts, May 2nd, 2025, the name changed to the asterisk officially on paper. Still think they're going to call it probably the New Avengers at the end of that movie. Fantastic Four First Steps, July 25th, 2025, the name changed as well to First Steps. Blade is still on the calendar for November 7th, 2025. I think we'll see if this movie happens, Mike. We'll know better next year. Untitled Marvel movie, February 13th, 2026, still on the calendar. Avengers Doomsday, May 1st, 2026. Avengers Doomsday is the new title. Untitled Marvel movie for July 24th, 2026 has been removed. So that's out of the calendar. However, we have heard very recently, over the past several months, Sony is fast-tracking a Spider-Man movie. Marvel does not own the release dates to Sony movies and Spider-Man, so my guess is Spider-Man's going to slot in here, Mike. And the rumors have been that they've taken so long to make Spider-Man 4 is because Sony wants to replicate Far From Home's multiversal success and bring back Tobey and Andrew again because they think that's where the money was. So if all these movies, the rumor below is going to fill in about this. If they are doing Battleworld movies in between Avengers movies, and Sony gets to do their multiversal movie on Battleworld, that meets everybody's requirements, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, Sony, you're already doing your multiversal Spider-Man movie. It's called Spider-Verse, and the movie's awesome, and it's amazing. I mean, my expectation for the next time I see Spider-Man is I want it to be more simple. I want him to be in that kind of sparkly red and blue suit that we showed him in at the end of No Way Home. He's just a normal street-level hero. He doesn't have the fancy Tony Stark suit anymore, so I want to see him overcome those hurdles.
He's in the city property.
Yeah, I want to see a movie built around that. I don't want Sony's shenanigans to come in here. I mean, I'm curious what some of these other Untitled movies are. One of them has to be Shang-Chi and the Wreckage of Time. It seems like that has to be in there somewhere.
Yes. And then we have Avengers Secret Wars, May 7th, 2027. And two more Untitled Marvel movies after Secret Wars, one in July, one in November. So they're getting down to 3 movies a year. proper. It looks like 2 for 2026. No, 3 for 2026. The rumor is that any movie that isn't a prequel between a Doomsday and Secret Wars will be on Battleworld. However, when you look at this, there is no movie in between there, right? Did I miss a Marvel movie? I'm gonna have to look this up. But Shang-Chi is it? What about Doctor Strange 3? You just watched Doctor Strange 2. The ending leaves you expecting that movie to set up this, right? Like,
yeah, or at least the next time we see Doctor Strange, he'll be dealing with incursions maybe in someone else's movie. That could be a possibility. Could it be a setup to when he pops up in maybe Doomsday or something? I'm not entirely sure here.
It won't be before Doomsday because all those movies are, well, I guess the February 13th one isn't, is it?
The big question is, a big question I have, right, when Avengers Endgame finished, right? Mm-hmm. Remind me, what was the very next movie after Endgame? Was it Shang-Chi?
No.
I think
no. Far From Home. No Way Home was actually the first movie after Endgame.
But that was like a whole calendar year, wasn't it?
No, it was.
I feel like, or months. Was it at the end of the year? Anyway, I'm just trying to imagine.
You're Far From Home, which was the one that went to Europe, was literally in July after the May release of Endgame.
Okay, I'm just trying to imagine.
Yeah, No Way Home was in December, but 3 years later.
Yeah, I'm trying to imagine this world in which, we collapse our entire universe of the MCU, everything that's been built right after, Secret Wars, and then what is the next movie. I mean, talk about a heavy weight to carry on your shoulders. Like, what is the next movie after Secret Wars? So it seems like they have 2 more movies in that calendar year after Secret Wars. So I guess maybe they kind of want to keep striking while the iron is still hot. Maybe one of those is an X-Men movie.
I don't think so. I highly don't think that's the case because every phase has had a lingering film after. I guess, well, the first phase, Avengers, ended proper. Then we had Iron Man 3 a year later, which is the next phase. But like after Age of Ultron, there was Ant-Man, which came out, and that was still part of that phase. Far From Home, which was ended that phase, which was actually kind of weird because it really didn't really deal with the snapping very well either. What was the last movie? Was it Wakanda Forever? Was the end of the last phase as well for the other one? It had nothing to do with anything because we didn't have any Avengers movies. I think it's going to be more small.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and I'm just going to put my ballot in the box and say I think the July 23rd movie after Secret Wars is going to be X-Men. And that's just maybe it'll be like Astonishing X-Men or something like that. They'll add one of those monikers in front of it, so it's just not like a repeat of the first title. But I think X-Men is going to be the thing that re-ushers in the MCU. So that's going to be my guess.
I believe you, but I think it'll be 28 before that happens. I'm actually thinking it's going to be Thor 5. We've been hearing Thor 5 for a very long time. I think that'll be where it kind of comes in. Whether we like it or not, that's a different story. However, they pull that back in. And then Armor Wars. We have a confirmed Armor Wars, remember, as well?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So, are something. There was one in November 2026. That's the one I missed. So, Shang-Chi... Doctor Strange. I think one will be I think there'll be lower stakes movies. I don't think it'll go from Secret Wars to X-Men. I think there'll be 2 lower stake films on my end. So we'll play opposite ends, if you will, and see what that works out for. But I think the interesting thing it will be to see if Sony comes and says we're going to do Spider-Man, obviously it's Marvel Spider-Man on Battleworld for 2024. Because if you go and read Secret Wars, there was a Spider-Man meets Miles Morales for the first time, and that would be a way for them to bring in a live-action Miles for the first time as well, without throwing off the MCU, I guess. So, I don't know. We got a lot of questions here. I'm excited, Mike. We just got renewed through November 2027 on the podcast. So, 3 more years of us coming out of this. this coming weekend is D23, and people may not know this. We talked about it quite a bit. D23 is a bi-yearly event, so every 2 years, where Disney does an event. You can be members of D23. You can show up. This year they're going to focus, I believe, more on Marvel, Star Wars, and Disney TV/streaming news that was not at San Diego Comic-Con, and one of our next topics is it. But the other thing I read, the next Fortnite season is on August 16th, and they've not announced it yet. But the leak we saw several months ago shows that it's Doctor Doom themed. So I think maybe we'll see another video game theme with that as well.
Yeah, you got to educate these kids that don't read comic books and don't know who Doctor Doom is. You throw them in the Fortnite. That's how you get them familiar.
Doctor Doom was in Fortnite once several years ago already. So to bring him back as like the big boss would be interesting. He wasn't. Galactus was the main boss of the first one, but if we can get Doctor Doom, I have the Doctor Doom skin. If he's in there doing the dab, kids will learn about him real fast. They will not be Skibbity Ohio Toilet at all. So. That hurt to say that on the show. But one of the topics I bring this up is that we have confirmation that Daredevil Born Again will be kicking off its promotion for its series at D23. And I'm wholeheartedly expecting a trailer next week, Mike, when we get on the show to be talking about the first Born Again trailer for this.
Oh, yeah. There's no reason they shouldn't have a trailer ready to go. Especially with like TV production, right? Because they're filming so much stuff for television that even if filming hasn't wrapped, and I think they have, so it doesn't even matter. They got something to cut a trailer together.
And they had that first initial footage that they could cut into a trailer if they really wanted to, right? Like the stuff they kicked to the curb, like they still have that footage. They're not going to throw it away. So they could always cut something off. But I'm excited to see this. We've heard, obviously, the return of John Bernthal as the Punisher. Get to see, the Kingpin. They've reduced there are still 18 episodes, but they've been split into 2 seasons. So we're going to learn a bit about that. Season 2, I think it was Charlie Cox. I think he was out saying somewhere, maybe at San Diego Comic-Con, that the Season 2 filming starts soonish. So the back 9 episodes will start picking up later this fall for the show. And they confirmed that the previous version, before the creative reboot, retooling, if you will, had no ties to the Netflix seasons. There were rumors, heavy rumors, I don't think this will be true in the new version, that I think Foggy or Karen were going to be killed early on in the original version. And you pick it with Matt Murdock and like his new crew, if you will, so you wouldn't be thinking about his times at Netflix, if you would. So sounds like they're really going to keep those characters and keep moving forward with that story here. Down this. Is there any, now that we've seen that he's going back to the red suit, Mike, I'm going to ask you, is there anything that you want to see in Daredevil Season 1 that we haven't got to see out of Daredevil in his previous iterations?
Man, I just want cool fight scenes. That's that's really all I need out of a Daredevil show. They don't have to happen in a hallway, but they still can if they want to.
Yeah. So the choreography, I want to see that. I want to see some team ups. I think Daredevil by himself is good, but like he's not really super powered to the point where like he's very big. I would love to see some MCU crossovers, right? Like not necessarily Spider-Man level, but like how we had Yelena in there. He knows She-Hulk. I don't think she'll show up in this, but he was in the She-Hulk season, so we'll see if anything comes into this. But I'm excited to see the footage, and we'll be talking about you guys next week with that. Superman, James Gunn's Superman has wrapped primary filming, if not secondary filming. It's releasing July of next year. And when I said this out loud, earlier when I wrote this, I realized that is next to within 2 weeks of Fantastic Four. Like that comes out, then 2 weeks later is Fantastic Four. Can you believe that?
I mean, I'm imagining with this release date, we're going to have a pretty competitive Super Bowl trailer spots next year, since usually that's kind of beginning of February. So that's going to be kind of right at the perfect kickoff point for, we might have teaser trailers for these 2 movies already by then, but maybe we'll kind of get full, big, like splashy, like, oh, here we go, Warner Brothers, Disney, duking it out, big summer movies. Where are your summer box office dollars going?
Right. Yeah. I think I have a feeling in my bones Superman's going to get moved forward, like closer to us, like a week, maybe like July 4th weekend, literally, because it would be July 4th. Like they may try to move it up to grab onto the long holiday weekend for Superman. I'm excited to see that. Is there a cat yelling at me over here, Mike? Did you just hear that?
I heard a faint whisper of a cat who had an opinion.
Yeah. So we'll have to go check that out. Hopefully they're not throwing up. Cats love to throw up. It's the best thing. But yeah, I mean, 2 weeks is going to be interesting to see for the relaunch of the DC universe, or the brand new DC universe, and then also the relaunch of the Fantastic Four. Both movies that have previous iterations that have not been really loved recently at all. So we'll keep an eye on how this goes. But you bring up a good point. Super Bowl. We're not August now. It feels weird to say that, but we'll be talking about Super Bowl before we know it. Spider-Man Noir, the show that just keeps giving and giving over here. I am excited to talk about this because I am just so curious what's going to happen with this show. Like, my hype isn't there, but I'm like, the curiosity is getting the best of me these days. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
What are they going to do with this? So, the character descriptions were recently revealed for the upcoming series, and again, we're getting confirmation here that Nick Cage is Ben Reilly, a retired superhero with the powers of Spider-Man, who is too old and broken, both figuratively and literally, to suit up the way he used to. He said he takes low-level PI cases and stays out of the ones that involve high-profile names, like that of the mayor, who is not named, by the way. Through flashbacks, we found about his past heroics and past failures that led him to this point. He is charming but weathered in the pilot. The pilot is doing an excellent job setting up for a good character arc moving forward. That sounds like Spider-Man Noir without using Peter Parker's name.
Yeah, I mean, I can't quite describe it, Chris, but the show just sounds like homework in a way. I know homework is something that you have to do, but this just kind of like sounds exhausting in a way of so much is being asked of me. It's just like, oh, we hope you're a Spider-Man fan. Now show up. Okay, now get ready because this isn't Spider-Man or Peter Parker. Okay, this is this other character that you might be familiar with if you've watched Spider-Verse. Hey, but it's Nick Cage, so that's exciting. Okay, but he's like a gruff, reluctant superhero, so we need you to care about him even though he doesn't care about himself. So now let's slowly, episode by episode, see him like return to being a hero, and then maybe you'll kind of get some big payoff in the season finale, and then after all is said and done, it probably doesn't even get renewed for a second season. This is a very pessimistic take, but like that's just what I'm feeling right now.
I'm curious to see what it is. I don't, obviously I think this is going to Amazon, right? I'm curious to see what kind of comes out of it. Are they only going to do one season, like a what do they call this? Is like a
limited series.
Limited series. Like, I could see them sign up and like we're gonna kill him off at the end, so we don't have to worry about this later, kind of thing. Or like a one and done, a good story. He redeems himself at the end. I'm curious if they're also gonna cast someone younger for the flashbacks rather than use Nicolas Cage, or maybe de-age him to tell some of this stuff. So I want to see what the world looks like. I want to see kind of what they're building around it, because I think, on paper, these are just really very generic paper descriptions, right? Like something that you would write to sell it to a producing room, or like, hey, we're hiring a writer room. Here are our characters. So I'm not going to take a lot of stake in this as the marketing materials yet, but it feels like, knowing this, they haven't written the whole show yet, and they're going to try to figure it out. But we at least have the chess pieces on the board. We might not just be playing chess. We're probably playing a different game for it. But I'm going to go through some of these other ones real fast. I'm not going to go through all of them. I might go through the names on the descriptions. We talked about Yuri Watanabe. She's I know her mostly from the Spider-Man games on the PlayStation. But this one, she'll be a stage singer with unknown ties to crime organizations in New York City, including that of the mayor. Her character exists entirely through the eyes of Ben Reilly in the pilot, but there's an interesting larger story set up for her in the pages. So I don't think we're going to meet her until later, right? We're just going to see her as he sees her, if you will. Or Noir. What do they talk in the back of their head? Or like voiceover kind of stuff. So I don't think we'll see a lot of that. The thing that got me, the next one's the one to be the biggest thing, and I want to get probably our biggest point of this is Flint Marko, aka Sandman, a hired goon working for Yuri, but has an unknown condition that causes him to turn into the Sandman. When he switches between identities, he has no memories of what the alter ego did while in control. It seemed a decent amount of story will revolve around him, and there's a lot of potential for this character to be a fan favorite. Ignore the flavor text, but that he transforms into the Sandman is interesting to me, and that it's like a Jekyll and Hyde scenario rather than he's someone who just has the powers.
He obviously couldn't just be sand all the time because that would strain the production budget of a television show for sure.
And probably wouldn't fit in the Noir universe either, like, to be honest.
Yeah, talk about a glut of Sandman too, right? We got to see him in No Way Home. We've already seen him in a Spider-Man movie already. And then on top of that, he was a very big component of Spider-Man 2, the video game.
Yeah.
So a lot of Sandman, which is strange because there's a lot of rogues gallery of Spider-Man that we haven't seen yet, but maybe that's the only thing that they were kind of quote allowed to use. Like, go ahead, use Sandman. We just wrapped him up. Yeah.
Well, I also think the Sandman he feels like a gangster a little bit, right? Like his character. So I think he fits in this universe more than Mysterio would, I guess. Maybe, I don't know, maybe like an old 1920s magician would be an interesting villain as well. I don't know. But yeah, I think Sandman's lower on the totem pole for their upcoming other productions, so that's probably why he's in here as well. I want to see what a Noir Sandman looks like for the show. I don't think it'll be the Flint Marko we saw in Spider-Man 3, but I would love to see what. I also don't think we're gonna get Spider-Man the video game where he's as tall as skyscraper sand either. So would love to see what they're doing with this on the show. Hopefully they're throwing some money at it. Obviously, we got Robbie Robertson, a reporter. We've got Mayor Delgado. There he is, the mayor. A corrupt politician whose motivations and past are entirely unknown. The character exists as set for future episodes, likely as the main villain. So, getting a little late there. Silvermane, an aging crime boss whose plans to retire thrown out the window after his mansion is burned down. So he's Batman. No, I'm kidding. It appears that he'll be one of the other major antagonists in the series. Brendan Gleeson is rumored to be Silvermane. Janet is Ben Reilly's secretary, and think Joan from Mad Men. Edward Addison catches himself on fire with no harm to his body and one of the MacGuffins for the plot. So looks like we're going to get at least another powered person in the show, Mike, who can flame on, if you will. It's not Johnny Storm, but obviously I would love to see if they have like maybe a villain of the week on top of all this stuff that he's doing in these cases. And then, there's another Delgado, another PI that has a working relationship. That's probably wrong. But either way, as you can tell, Mike, they're building this story. They're building this universe. I want to see the concept art. I want to see the visuals because the thing about Noir is it's black and white, and Spider-Man Noir has a unique outfit. It's not about him being regular Spider-Man and being quippy. He's more of a, obviously a crime noir character who has a lot of voiceovers and is dealing with that stuff. So I want to see it. I have questions that need answers, but the curiosity is now getting the better of me than before. I'm a little on board more for curiosity. It may suck. First episode maybe awful. First episode maybe great. I don't know, but it's fun to learn about it as we kind of go through it with them at the same time. Other than that, that's the show for this week. It's a light show, and I only say that because, as people may know, I told Mike before the show, post Comic-Con, there's not a lot of news because they took all the news to Comic-Con. So
yes, that's true.
We are really scraping the barrel here for this with this Spider-Man Noir breakdown. So the next week's D23. So obviously Disney's not doing anything right now, but and the Olympics are on. People are watching the Olympics. Mike, have you been watching a lot while it's on, or just kind of catching up the recaps?
Man, I've seen the memes. I'm all over the memes. I know all about the chocolate muffins.
I learned about the chocolate muffins today. That was my new one.
Yeah, and I would recommend. I do not have the time to invest and watch any one particular sport, but on Peacock, I really like the what do they call it? It's like their Olympic highlight show. I think it's Kevin Hart and Kenan Thompson are the host of it, and they just kind of like go through and just make fun of like different clips and highlights, and they bring on like interviews and stuff. It's fun. It's lighthearted. It's easy to put on in the background, but that's my recommendation for keeping up with the Olympics myself.
Yeah, I've been the two one I've seen lately is the shooter from Turkey who's just so casual about it, and like they're like, Gen Xers can do this because they played Duck Hunt as a kid kind of thing. And then also, have you seen the Italian gymnast sponsored by Parmesan Cheese Company?
Oh yeah, hilarious! Love it.
It is great. The Olympics just bring everyone together. It's such a good time. So if you guys are watching anything specific or excited for this week's, I think it's track and field coming up, let us know. But Mike, if people know what you're up to, what you're doing, where can they find you at, buddy?
Yeah, they can read my webcomics at liferewardsrisk.com and pickledcomics.com. Chris, people want to catch up with you. Where are you?
Instagram, Valdan87, VALDAN, or Video Game Systems of the same name. If people want to know about the show, what we're doing, what we're up to. In 2 weeks, I'm going to Chicago Fan Expo, so we'll have some coverage in 2 weeks of that. Where can they get all these goodies?
Oh, all you got to do is head on over to superheroslate.com. That is the Olympic village of Superhero Slate, where you can get all of the chocolate muffins you desire at superheroslate.com. We're on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, wherever else you love to listen to fine podcasts. You can get merch at superheroslate.com/store. We love hearing from you. Reach out. Let us know what you think about the MCU moving forward. What are your favorite rumors? Maybe you just want to invent a rumor and send it in to us and act like you are working on set and you've seen the script, and maybe we can push some fake news out there.
Give us your scoops. We want the biggest scoops you got, but we're not going to fact check them. You got to tell us what they are.
But we love our super fans, so if you want to be a super fan of the show, all you have to do is share the show with a friend, share the show with a buddy, and we'll be here every week, folks.
That's right. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.